James Kaufman, World News Report today, August 5th, 2025. God bless you and yours, no matter where you are in the world. Please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell for critical future updates. Are Starlink satellite re-entries ruining Earth's atmosphere? The great Starlink re-entry event is ongoing and basically out of SpaceX's hands. Yes, SpaceX is conducting a giant uncontrolled experiment in atmospheric chemistry without any regard for its consequences. Not that they could control it, even if they wanted to. These experiments are beyond SpaceX's control. This year, analysts noticed something strange. Starlink satellites were falling out of the sky, a lot of them. 4 or 5 per day have been re-entering Earth's atmosphere and vaporizing in plain sight. This has been ongoing for months. Between December 2024 and July 2025, more than 525 Starlink satellites have deorbited, as seen on this chart, and it only promises to get worse. What's going on? We could use the word house cleaning, but that wouldn't give it justice. These are mostly first generation or Gen 1 satellites. SpaceX says that they're deliberately retiring them to make room for newer models, when in fact they weren't put in high enough orbit to maintain their orbits. SpaceX has zero control over these Starlink satellites falling to Earth, so we can't call it deliberate. SpaceX says that they're retiring these satellites to make room for newer models. However, some of the new satellites, whose orbit was not sufficient to keep them in space, are also falling to Earth. SpaceX is currently launching up to 50 new Starlink satellites per week, maintaining a fleet of over 8,000 satellites. Weeding out the old ones is not really just business as usual, as these satellites are doing it themselves. This is a chart of the 8,000 satellites currently in orbit. You can see that each one of them has basically a tail number so that they can be tracked, much like an airplane would be. We're talking about the entire planet being covered with SpaceX satellites, with more to come. What is not usual and extremely concerning is the atmospheric fallout. The fiery re-entry of even one Gen 1 Starlink satellite produces about 30 kilograms of aluminum oxide vapor, a compound that erodes our ozone layer. A new study finds that these oxides have increased 8-fold between 2016 and 2022. Needless to say, the continuous re-entry of these Starlink satellites have increased the pollution even more. Now, with that said, there's several other companies that are trying to duplicate what SpaceX has done in low Earth orbit. To put this in perspective, before the first Starlink satellite launched, only about 40 or 50 satellites would re-enter Earth's atmosphere every year. SpaceX just brought down 10 years' worth in only 6 months, adding an estimated 15,000 kilometers of aluminum oxide to the upper atmosphere. And the climate change folks want to blame cattle and your pets. Even before this last surge of over 500 satellites that I just showed you, scientists were already sounding the alarm. In February 2023, NASA flew a WB-57 aircraft over Alaska at 60,000 feet to collect stratospheric aerosols. A study published later that year found that 10% of sampled particles contained aluminum and other metals from these burn-ups of these satellites, with multiple companies racing to deploy mega constellations of satellites that will compete directly with Starlink satellites. Projections suggest more than 60,000 satellites could be in orbit by 2040. This means that re-entry debris will soon rival the natural influx of meteoroids, but with very different chemistry. Meteors are mostly rock. Satellites are mostly metal. A simulation by NOAA scientists suggests that aluminum-rich space dust could heat the stratosphere and mesosphere by up to 1.5 degrees Celsius and slow the southern polar vortex, potentially altering global weather patterns big time. So what happens next? Well, something must be done to stop this. It appears that Starlink satellites are one of the biggest culprits as far as our ozone depletion. And again, we have several competing companies that are fighting to get their mega constellations of satellites in orbit as soon as possible. Now, this study does not even go into how much these launches tear up our ionosphere. That's a whole nother story. If climate change activists need someone or something to go after, I think we've just isolated it for them. Stop screaming about cattle and our pets and get busy with the real problem. All of the space launches and all of the deorbiting of the satellites around the globe, SpaceX or not. With that said, folks, God bless each and every one of y'all. Please share, please subscribe, and please always remember that anything's possible in bizarro world.